DC's Peacemaker has made Salvation Run #1, the hottest spec comic in all the market. And I got the creator, CHEN, with me coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. Joining me today, I got a very special, esteemed guest, CHEN, writer, artist, and creator of Evermind, but also, some of the comic book series that I think we're going to talk a little bit here tonight. It's interesting because I wanted to do a live stream just to celebrate, the launch of Evermind, and us having it over at the VV booth at New York Comic Con and talk about Baltimore Comic Con. And it just happened to be that one of your old works is one of the hottest books, thanks to James Gunn and Peacemaker. But we're going to get into that here today. But Sean, how are you doing back from your Baltimore travels?
I'm doing better, I suppose. I went to New York Comic Con first, and then right after that was Baltimore. I think I got sick at New York Comic Con, so I kind of just carried that sickness all through Baltimore. I think I probably got my voice back just this morning. So oh, wow. I don't know how long it'll last, but you won't catch anything from me because this is online. But I am sick as a dog, so I hope it comes across okay.
Oh man, yeah, it's always kind of a grind, like doing the con circuit. Even just for me, I wasn't even working at the same capacity that you were, but I went out to New York and I don't know. I felt like con hungover. Like I don't know if that's how you feel. Getting back home from Baltimore.
Well, it's actually a couple of things that converge because this is Hell Month. The month that your campaign is going. So because of that, I wasn't planning to do any more conventions, but then because during the campaign, there was 2 shows, so I did both of them. And then every single live stream that came along that would have me. So it's talking a lot, and it's kind of strange because I just kind of sit at home in my basement, in my underwear, drawing Evermind all day long. And then now, just all of a sudden, 1 month, it's just solid talking until I didn't realize that there is a limit to how much my voice actually goes.
Yeah. You're definitely having like a million small conversations whenever you're at, the Baltimore Comic Cons and the New York Comic Cons. Actually, before we kind of get into our main topics, which I want to ask you about Salvation Run, and we're going to talk about, some of the trending books and the DC effect compared to kind of the Marvel effect on comic books right now. But before we get into that, I'm always curious what it's like for artists when you're at cons and you're drawing in the con floor. Like, compared to your typical place, like you said, you're doing it in your room, in the comforts of your home. Like, do you enjoy having to do like commissions? Or I don't know if you're working on other pages while you're at the show floor, but like, isn't it like hectic to like create and turn around stuff while you're in that environment, or is it fun?
It is. Yeah, it is. I'm not sure what it is, but I find it very hard to do. And maybe it's because there's my certain personality, but I think I have trouble focusing on more than one thing at once. So at home, it's very secluded, and I can work, and I have my desk at the right angle, and all the lighting is just right. And then I find that I can draw the best that way. It's hard always, but it's best that way. And then you go to a convention, and then everything's upside down, and there's people everywhere, and it's cosplay. Like a wing will just bat you in the face while you're drawing. And I keep on saying like, this is horrible. And there's a pressure to turn out a great drawing because someone paid good money for it, and to do it fast. But when it's all over, I was like, well, never want to do that again. But then next month, I'm right back there looking forward to it. So overall, it's a blast. I love doing it. I love meeting the people, and I'll probably do it until I drop dead. But while I'm doing it, it's a high stress environment, and maybe that's part of it. The adrenaline comes out, and the drawing has to be good by hook or by crook. So one strange thing that happens is that if you're staying like with family members at the hotel, sometimes my kids will come along, or friends will double up in the hotel room. I would have to draw overnight, but they're sleeping because they don't have to draw. So I am drawing on the floor of the bathroom because that's the only other room in the hotel. So I don't like to say this because like the person who's got this convention doesn't know I'm drawing on the bathroom floor. Nothing gets out of my hands until it's perfect in my eyes, but getting to that state at a convention, sometimes it's like pulling teeth.
Well, it's glad that you say that you enjoy it and that you're going to do it for, seemingly the next few years. What was that like quote in the Deadpool movie where it's like, oh, they're going to make you do this until you're 90? I think, Sean, we're going to make you do Evermind until you're 90, which, of course, if you guys don't know, Evermind is Sean's creator-owned comic Kickstarter that is out right now. We're going to talk about it a little bit later on, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty there. But you might be having to go to more cons coming up and sign more and do more commissions based on this comic right here, Salvation Run #1. Now, I know my audience is probably well aware of this, but I don't know when this came across your desk, Sean, but just the other week, Salvation Run #1, which of course you were the artist for, became the hottest book on the Key Collector Trending 20 list. It was #1 on Cover Price. That has since been knocked off due to the Mark Spears blind bags, which we might talk a little bit. I'm going to get your thoughts on blind bags later on. But this was one of the hottest trending books because spoilers out there in the Peacemaker show, they made mention of Salvation, the prison planet, being within the DC universe, and I guess it's going to be a location or a place that is going to be seemingly important for the James Gunn world for a little while now. But Sean, because I have you, let me start here. Did you know that your comic book was trending? When did you find out? And number two, what do you actually think about that?
Oh, I found out. One of my friends, Mike McGuire, texted me at the New York Comic Con when it was ending, and he said, "Your comic's #1." And I was like, "Wow, it's Evermind or Iron Man or something." And I looked at it, and it's Salvation Run. So I kind of just passed it off because I don't really know how the hot list works, and I know that collectors can be kind of prioritize some really weird things. So I just figured it's just some kind of weird aberration for a day. But then he told me to look closer at the reasoning. And then it was because I guess there's plans for Salvation the Planet in the kind of some future DC stuff and in the Peacemaker. So then I realized, wow, no one was more surprised than me because this was a book that was kind of a shit show. I don't know if you want to hear about all that, but I just put it out and it was very forgettable. I'm kind of known for Iron Man, probably mostly, maybe a little bit of Wolverine, if there weren't so many great artists on Wolverine. But that's about it. So this is one of those books that they poached me from Marvel to do at DC. And this is the book they came up with. And I thought it was kind of odd because I didn't quite get it. So I drew it, and it was a disaster on many levels, but I think in the end, it turned out pretty good. So when this came up, I just totally forgot I did this book. And I don't know whether it's because of the experience. I kind of wiped it out, but that just goes to show, like, you can do in this crazy business we're in, anything you do can become hot at any time, and that's what's fun about it.
Yeah, it's definitely always pretty crazy. Like, you never know, like these types of comics, which admittedly, I was unaware of this particular book as well. It was kind of in that time, 2008, that was like a little bit tweener years of comic books, where it was maybe transitional or weren't as popular as they were in the 90s, and then later on, kind of once comics started getting interesting again with the storytelling. But 3,075% increase in copies sold this week versus the previous week due to the introduction of the Prison Planet Salvation in the Peacemaker finale. You made mention that this one was a little bit of a shit show. Like, what tell me about this project. Like, how did it come about? I think that this is some of the Flash villains that were in this. Like, what was the idea behind this run? And then I guess, how do you see it working in James Gunn's universe, if you've been watching Peacemaker or any of the shows he's been working on?
So basically it was, well, let me put it this way. It's been only last year, Dan Didio, when Dan Didio left DC, he started going on all these interviews and doing interviews with everybody. And so I watched them all. One of the interviewers asked him, what was the proudest moment at DC in terms of something you created you're proud of? And then also, as a corollary to that, what was the most embarrassing thing, or what was something that you didn't think went over really well? So he said that Salvation Run was his biggest disappointment at DC. And that was,
Really?
When I heard that, I almost, that just sent me into a spiral. I didn't know, I was part of that book. So I was a part of his biggest failure at DC. So, I do this Twitch stream with Bernard Chang, and then one of the guys, Fletcher Chufong, works with Dan a lot. He's on our podcast with us, and he actually brought Dan Didio on the next day to kind of maybe explain how much of it was my fault. So anyways, Dan, I guess, being nice, says it wasn't my fault. But the idea is when Dan first took over at DC. He in the files where it's like past projects, he's like looking for some, like the next big hit or next series that he's going to spotlight the next year. He found this thing called Salvation Run, which was written by George R.R. Martin. It was pitched by George R.R. Martin. And it's basically Game of Thrones in the DC universe with all the villains on a planet. So Dan was like, well, how come they didn't do this? So he contacted George R.R. Martin and asked him if he wants to do it now, many years later. And he wasn't interested for whatever reason, maybe time constraints. And this is before Game of Thrones was big on TV. So he was, he was always a big name writer, but the concept really stuck with Dan Didio. And so he brought a team together, which was Bill Willingham on writing. And then I was poached from Marvel to do this. And so we started working on it. It was difficult from the start. I don't think Bill Willingham really chose me as art. I think he was looking for some other artist, maybe like Barry Kitson. And then when I was drawing, it was it's a new universe with all these people that I didn't really know. So it was like pulling teeth trying to get the whole cast together. It was just going very badly. And then I guess where it really went really bad was that my wife gave birth to our first child. And usually my reputation in the business is I'm very professional and I do my best work all the time, except that my child was born. So I was like, I can't be drawing your little Mickey Mouse projects here. I got a kid. So I left. And then there was a fill-in artist that was brought in. And then I was brought back to finish it up. So there was a lot of things going on. And then, so in general, Dan said that it did not work out the way he thought it was. I think people kind of look at the project and in general, they like how it all went and liked everything about it. But on the internal side, everything was just going badly. And then it did get the reputation of Dan's biggest disappointment in his entire career at DC. But I think where it kind of redeemed itself for Dan anyway, is that the concept showed so much promise that he believed in it and put it out there, and it didn't perform the way he wanted it to. But then I guess James Gunn read it, and then he's probably saw the same potential that Dan saw. So Dan is justified. He's in the clear. He must be on top of the world. You should have him on this show because I'm sure he has a lot to say about this. So things went well for him because he was justified in thinking that this was in fact a strong concept. But I think just doing it was a strange time in my life, and Bill Willingham, I don't know why he disappeared in the middle of it, and then Lila Sturgis was brought in to do it, and then there was another artist, so it was kind of all over the place. But in the end, I think the fact that it was picked out of nowhere from the memory hole to be a big part of the DCU, I think it's a great feeling. So I'll say that my contribution to it. Well, I mean, someone told me they finished watching the second season of Peacemaker, and I get one of those, at the end, of special thanks. So I never really thought that I'd be eligible for any of those, but this is like my third one of the year because I got a special thanks in the Fantastic Four movie, and then before that, the Superman and Lois TV show finale. So it's like, I never really thought that this would happen because I'm not that caliber of artist that would get those. Like, it's not like a Bendis or Jim Lee or Jeff Loeb. Like, they get mentioned all the time because they actually create these things. But to have 3 times in 1 year, I'm like, the year's not over yet. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, you never really know. I mean, it's really cool. And I think that when you're even talking about it and knowing like what the premise of the story is, it's like, yeah, this feels like it's perfect ground for James Gunn to like kind of play in this universe, put all the villains together, have them kind of battle royal it in this prison rules, literal prison planet, and see what kind of happens from there. So I don't know. I think it's really awesome, and it's funny that you say that maybe you didn't love the work or you felt like you weren't doing your best stuff on it, but California Comics here said that he's digging the artwork for sure, and funny enough. Shout out to the 24/7 Comics channel. A few lucky backers of Evermind's OA tiers from the first campaign actually got original art pages from Salvation #1. Oh, wow. I mean, that's pretty funny and pretty crazy that I don't know if you were just kind of taking some of the old pages that you had laying around for the
Yeah.
Kickstarter, and you're like, well, nobody really wanted these, and then now, sure enough, like people are going to be going crazy for where those pages are. But I'm actually curious. Do you know where the Salvation Run 1 cover is, or do you still have it?
Oh, I sold that a long time ago, probably for like maybe $200. So it's out there in the wild. Uh, like this project, I tend to price things emotionally, and when you're an artist, you're always into the most current thing you're doing. So something that's like 5 years old or 2 years old, you draw so much better, and you try to forget those things, and you price it accordingly. So like, this is terrible. I'll sell it for $200, and that's just me because I see things through a very skewed lens. But it does have a tremendous amount of value, and it's out there. And the bottom line is, I should not be pricing my work. So
Yeah.
so that's why I have an agent now that handles that. But yeah, this I think if you go on Comic Art Fans, you can probably find the guy who owns it.
Well, very cool. Well, guess what? You ask and you shall receive, Sean. You said that we should have Dan on the channel to
Oh,
weigh in and give his thoughts. And sure enough, folks in the chat, say hello to the man himself, Dan Didio.
wow.
How's it going, sir?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Good. You got me just at the right time. I was procrastinating, so I was looking for something other to do than what I was supposed to do.
Well, this is definitely a surprise and a pleasure, Dan. Thanks so much for hopping on. We were just, having Sean on and on my channel talking about some of the hot books out there in the market. And yeah, this past week, Salvation Run kind of coming out of nowhere. Let me ask you the sort of same question I asked Sean. Like, one, when did you find out that this book was hot? Or maybe I should say, when did you find out Salvation Run was going to be involved in Peacemaker in DC?
Just now.
Holy cow.
For the life of me, I was wondering. Actually, I have to admit, I came on because of my curiosity. I'm like, why was anybody talking about Salvation Run at this particular moment in time? It was kind of interesting to hear. So it was. I guess I should play. I shouldn't play dumb, but I'm going to have to. It was on Peacemaker.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, it was on
Sorry,
Peacemaker.
guys. When I step away, I really step away. You got to understand.
Yeah, well, for those who don't know, for Dan and for those in the chat who don't know, Peacemaker, of course, stars John Cena. It's the TV show on HBO that is a part of the James Gunn DC universe. And in the season finale, they made mention of Salvation Run, the prison planet being involved in the story or some kind of thing. So there's a lot of thought that, oh, okay, maybe this is where season 3 is going, or maybe this is going to be an important element to DC's connected universe. And I don't know if you know how the comic collecting world works, Dan, but over here in
That I know.
secondary market collecting land, as soon as something like that happens, everybody loses their mind. And
Oh, wow.
so Salvation Run #1 became kind of the #1 book on sort of your trending list and your cover price and the hot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Stuff.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, I don't know if Sean got into the history of Salvation Run.
I did, and I was very apologetic. And I said it was your initiative, and then you saw how the concept has so much potential. And then
but do you know how it started? Interestingly enough, it was actually the idea of Salvation Run was created by George R.R. Martin. Believe it or not, we had we reached out to him to do some writing for us. We had a contact in the office, Bob Wayne, who was good friends with George. Brought George around, and George gave me a script called Salvation Run, which was basically putting all our villains on a prison planet. And I'm going to say this, because I actually still have a copy of that script because I had to keep it. It was possibly the most violent, horrific thing and craziest story I ever read in my life. And at that point, we couldn't do it. It was just too much. And we were looking to change it, and unfortunately, George got busy with other stuff, and we put it aside. And then we were building our bigger story, and that story always stuck with me because I thought it was really brilliant. So when I think how it worked out was, we had bought the script from him. When it came time later on to go do it, we asked him if he wanted to go ahead and do it. And he couldn't, but he gave us the ability to actually bring in other writers to pull it together. So we actually made that an important part of our overarching story for the year. I actually loved it. I love the whole idea of it. I love the whole concept of it. I always say that, anything that highlights the DC villains is a great project in its own right, and being able to put them all on the same page is even more exciting. So it was kind of fun to see. It was for my intents and purposes, during my tenure, my secret society of supervillains in a bizarre way too. Picking up on a lot of that stuff. So there you go. But I thought Sean knocked it out of the park, and that's why it was good to hear that Sean was on the call, because I would have to bring him up as well about how good it all came together with Bill Willingham.
Well, Sean was just saying that he felt like it was, like he didn't get to feel like he did his best work. And then he also made mention that you feel like it didn't perform the way you were hoping for it to perform. But what is your kind of thought on why you felt that way?
I think the reason why I probably felt that way was at that particular point, we had been running pretty hot in the DC universe for a while. We started in 2004. With Identity Crisis. That went into the countdown to Infinite Crisis, and then the miniseries that we had there. Then we went into Infinite Crisis. Then we went into 52, the weekly series. And with anything, when you have success in publishing, everybody wants you to continue that success. So we fast-tracked a lot of concepts, and Salvation Run was still one of those projects that we fast-tracked to put through. So we were really rushing it. So I don't think it got the proper setup to get the story on the ground. And you got to remember, I'm working from old memories here, and my memory's not the best anymore. If I remember correctly, it didn't have the right lead-in, the right amount of time to set that story up properly. If we had a year to set it up, we would have been stealing villains over a long period of time, wondering where they're gone, and then ultimately, boom, you show the big story about where they all landed, and it all comes together. But when you condense that storytelling and rush it, you don't get the same emotional impact when the events happen. And when you have too many events back to each other, the ramifications of an event doesn't have a chance to land, and the setup to the event doesn't feel strong enough to get you into what might be a world-changing concept. And the idea of taking all these villains off and putting them on a planet, the goal was, now you got my brain running, now it's all of a sudden coming back. The goal was to take a lot of very familiar villains off the table so that we could start creating new villains and refreshing the pot a little bit and create new characters and new ideas. That was something we're always pushing through. And, like I said, I remember it. I remember it fondly because it was something that I always loved. And I love the idea and the high concept of it so much that I remember what I wanted it to be and how I remember it. And that, it holds a good spot in my heart. That's why when you say to come on, I don't mind coming on to talk about something that I remember in a good way. I don't remember it any other way than that,
Yeah. Not trying to rush too many events and do them all at once and giving them room to breathe. It's sure a good thing that Marvel and DC have been able to change that.
Yeah. Well, because you're chasing money. I hate to say it. Kind of chasing money.
Yeah. Obviously, that was a joke. They haven't really been able to kind of give it some of the room that it breathes. And as Carl says here, the MC has a lot to learn from what Dan is sharing right here. I think, Carl agrees with you that, sometimes you just sort of need that time. You need that slow burn, that build up to make it feel as satisfying as you want it to be.
Well, there used to be an expression, we want to, if something was canceled, you want to give it some time to basically lose its nuclear sensibility. If it was radioactive, let it calm down, let people start to build up want and need for it. But when you constantly relaunch on top of each other, you don't really get that chance to build that appreciable interest or anxiety or anxiousness to see a character or a story. That was the one thing we did, and where we tripped up a little bit, we rushed Final Crisis a little bit. And I thought, again, things like Salvation Run and Final Crisis and all these ideas that we had were really strong ideas, but we were crowding them together. And every once in a while, if you crowd a bunch of ideas, they start to step on each other's toes. We had a battle plan in place, and we just kind of rushed it, a little bit, I have to say,
Yeah. Well, now it seems to be that people definitely have that appreciation, that the nuclear activity is moving away from it, like you said, and here we are almost 20 years later. And you guys can see right here, as it just kind of flash, all
Oh,
the
there you go.
sales on eBay, all the secondary market, buying it up. This is all just in the last, day or so.
I'm gonna
Just
say,
people
Sean,
just
did
picking
you
up
keep
this
all the
thing.
comps? Did you keep all your comps?
I did not. They all go to the local hospitals.
Yeah, well, that's what you gotta do, Sean. You gotta sit on this stuff for
Right.
20 years, and then you can get a big payday to the tune of $30, which is not a bad come up considering maybe it was $1 the day
Well,
before.
I mean, Sean, you've gone through this with the Valiant stuff too, haven't you? Where things kind of spike and go crazy as well. Because I mean, I remember a lot of your books busting big with the Valiant side as well.
Yeah, I just never learned. But like I said, a lot of times it's my emotional feelings over the piece. It doesn't really jive with the market value of it. So if I have a less than positive feeling about something, I'll let it go for a song. I think that all this stuff, the Salvation stuff, just left my house when you declared it your biggest disappointment of your entire DC career. So.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm kind of joking, but I'm just glad that you seem to be fond of it now, and I think you've been justified in picking it out as a strong concept because someone else did, which is James Gunn. So you were justified in thinking it was great, regardless of how it was executed. The concept is what really matters.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's funny, Sean. You got to forgive me because I thought absolutely zero of this until you guys just called me and came on. So I'm actually playing a little catch up right now in my head, and I do remember things like. I think originally we did 6 issues, right? It was 6 issues?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the original Salvation, to tell you the truth, the original Salvation Run concept was that it was really to follow all the villains getting off on a planet and basically creating a society on the planet, and following them not just for a year, but for almost like a decade of what happened to them once they're gone for so long and what would happen to them. That was a lot of what the original concept was about, trying to build this high-end thing. And because I love the idea so much, we couldn't execute it the way it was originally formulated. So we brought it down, and it was originally, I think, a 12-part series, and I think we wound up doing 6 issues, which again rushes that big story. It doesn't make it land as heavy because you sort of, if you're working with a regular format, to have that many characters in only 6 issues, it's hard to service the story properly and service all the characters properly because you only have a certain amount of pages. And one of my biggest concerns always whenever I'm looking at event books is characters acting out of position, meaning they don't act and behave the way we recognize them because they have to move the plot along more so than be themselves. And if you don't give your character the opportunity to act in a way that people react or recognize, they don't connect with the story at the same level. And, I'd have to go back and read the material, but that might be some of the stuff I'm reacting to or might have been reacting to in the days when I first saw it, is that the characters weren't behaving in true form to what your expectations of more so than how they needed to behave to make the story work, if that makes sense,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And
What
I was just saying that right in the middle of it, I had my first child. My wife did. And so usually nothing can distract me from doing my comic book job, but I can only freak out about one thing at a time. And so I had to make an important decision. So I wasn't as present on that, but I wish I knew if I spoke to you what this book meant to you and what it meant for the larger DC universe. I probably would have been able to focus on the important things about it. A lot of times I just was going from page to page, not really knowing what the big picture was. But it's still, I think it turned out great. People liked it, so.
You know what? I mean, there's a big story in there somewhere, and there's a lot of fun with it, and I think that's the main thing for it. I see this issue 7. So we had 7 issues, not 6. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, so we had 7 here, and I was just going to highlight this because this was the number 2 book. What ends up happening is everyone wants to pick up issue number 1. They get all into it, and then everyone is chasing different, interesting, cool things. And of course, you got a Neil Adams. I don't think you did this one, Sean. This is a Neil Adams variant that he did for issue 7. It's got the Joker on it, so this is also one that people are just like, hey, this looks cool. Let's collect this issue. So this is the number 2 book behind number 1.
And I see Sturgis's name on the cover, and that only makes me say that what might have happened. I know we started with Bill Willingham, so we probably had to change a writer halfway through, which also could have been some of those issues as well. We were talking about. You think it mentioned you remembered better than I, Sean. I have to go. You know what it is? It's funny. I'm going to say it this way. You remember the goods. I remember the good stuff. You know what I mean? I remember the stuff that I enjoy. I remember the things, what we wanted to do and wanted to accomplish. It's this was a book that I felt the story was, the script that I got, I knew we couldn't produce, but I know the concept was so strong that we would try to use it at some point or another. A couple of times that happened though, we had really strong concepts and we couldn't run them where we wanted to or in the way we wanted to. And in some of those occasions, or maybe more than not, they never landed as hard or as well as they did when you first thought them or when you first wanted to put them out. But I think this is, I still like the high end concept behind Salvation Run. I think it was a great idea.
Yeah,
Right.
So does James Gunn. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So does James Gunn. Do you have any memories of this one, Dan? This Neil Adams cover? Just any?
I
you
have
ever
memories
talk to him?
of Neil Adams.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Lots
that's
of
fair.
those. Lots of those. Lots of good ones too. Lots of crazy ones. I remember, like I said, I remembered what we set out to do at the start. We probably did not finish where we had hoped to end. But I think there was a lot of bumps along the way. Now that I'm looking at the covers, I think there's some bumps along the way that probably sort of weakened the ending of it. But I think the high concepts is still strong. And if they're going to use it, hopefully they go back and they recognize what the true big concept is and have a blast with it and really see it to its full potential again. That would be fabulous. That, it sort of validates everything, even if you didn't execute it properly. If somebody else can, I think that's that's a great thing. And we're out there, when we're making books, I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying, during that period of time, we're putting out at DCU somewhere between 70 and 75 books a month, and it was a grind, just to keep it going and keep it working. And sometimes you're more surprised when something does work than when it doesn't work, just because of just all the extraordinary circumstances that are on you. But I always say every book starts out with the best of intentions and the best idea in place, and the hope is that we execute in the best way possible. And you just go from there. And if it works, great. Pat yourself on the back, and you're on to the next book. If it doesn't work, think about what didn't happen right, and and fix it the next time. That's the fun part about comics. You got every month to try to make yourself a little bit better and a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Well, very, very cool to see this one get excited. Very awesome that you're able to jump on the channel here, Dan, and talk about this. We're going to kind of move forward to discuss what are Sean's other creations with Evermind and also cover the rest of the list. You're more than happy to stay. I wanted to
jump on. It was great to see Sean again, and thank you very much for the invitation. It really is a pleasure, and the best to you guys. Sean, I'm glad to see you still working out there and having a good time, man. That's the main thing. I think that's the great part about it.
Yeah, I think there's room for you to come back. I think I'm just waiting for that.
Yeah. I'm just, what? I'm working on a Mad Cave book right now. And that's why I said I was kind of stuck a little bit. So this was perfect.
Well, Dan, thanks so much. Thanks, Dan, for hopping on the channel. Maybe let the people know where can people keep up with what you got going on out there. Where can people go?
Yeah, like I said, I'm doing things just to so I don't lose my mind. I'm mostly retired these days, which is good. Have a lot of things to do, house-wise, family-wise, keep me busy. But I still enjoy a little bit of comic stuff, just because comics were my life. I was a collector when I was 10 years old, man. So here I am, north of 65. So believe me, it's been a long time with comic books. So it's hard to just walk away. But anyway, it's all good.
Well, thanks, Dan, so much for hopping on, and we'll catch you on the next show.
You got it. My pleasure, guys. Have a good one now. Thanks again.
Bye,
Thanks for the invitation. Right. Bye now.
See ya. Well, there you have it, Sean. Dan,
wow.
Cameo appearance.
So he remembers the good things. I tend to remember the bad things. So I guess that accounts for the discrepancy.
Well, I think that that's the life of the artist, right? Is like,
Yeah.
you're going to be your hardest critic and be willing to part with your salvation, run pages in the Evermind Kickstarter, which, speaking of the Evermind Kickstarter, from one creation to the next, we're going to finish out the list later on in the show, but we got to quickly talk about Evermind 1 through 6, the new creator-owned comic book by you, sir, that actually just came out on Kickstarter a couple weeks ago, currently at 16,600, so twice that of the pledge goal of 88888. 279 backers, 15 days to go. We were at the VV booth at New York Comic Con with this the Ashcan signing stuff, the drop on VV, of course, with your co-creator Daniel Wu. Tell us a little bit about Evermind. At least this version of it.
Well, we were talking about how monthly comics for a company like a corporation can be very, very spotty because of the constraints you have to work under. So, I've been working for 30 years for Marvel and DC, and now when you kind of graduate from that, you kind of want to create your own characters and put out your own book. So I had to put on the writer hat for the first time. What makes it a better situation is that with Marvel and DC, you have 1 month to do stuff, and then I always wonder, like, if these artists were working very hard on these books, if they get a script that's just really terrible, and you have to draw it because it's your job, and you got to draw it fast, and then at the end of the month they kind of take it away from you and say, like, it's done, you have no more time. So that's what you see on the stands with them. So this is completely night and day here. This is a project where I get to make sure that the writing is at the quality that I want, even if it takes years. So this project, it's 6 issues, but it's been going on for a few years now. So it's giving me the time to draw to the level that I'm happy with and write I think when someone writes a story for comics, because it's episodic and because it's monthly, because there's so much other stuff out there, and because it's propped up by all the stories that came before it and all the movies that come out with the character, you don't really have to bring your A game, and you really can't, because it doesn't pay enough and there's not enough time. But the comics medium is so versatile that you can put anything you want in there. And if you want to spend years writing a story, if you want to spend years drawing a story, you can. So this is the result of that. I would consider this to be my best work ever, because it's kind of a no compromise project. And it'll sit on the stands next to all the monthly comics, and it's in the floppies or whatever, and it's still kind of regarded the same. But you'll see a difference in the quality just because the amount of TLC that's put into this, because it's my own personal project and it's my baby. I will give it the attention it deserves, and I hope you can kind of see the quality there. So yeah, this is a story that I came up with. We kind of developed it with Carl and then fleshed it out. And my goal was to make a book that, we kind of get used to. Maybe you can explain this to me and the whole collecting community, that the first issue sells X number, whatever, and issue 2 sells about like half of that. And I think that's yeah. And I always wonder what that was about. I assume it's all collectors, but I think a good part of it is that writers in comics sometimes are not as well trained or seasoned as the writers in novels or screenplays, where that kind of stuff you can't have, because you have to kind of get this unputdownable quality in your writing. And I think a lot of times when you see a comic book sales just go down to half with issue 2, it's just that it was definitely putdownable. And unputdownable is a very elusive, very extremely hard to accomplish. But I did find out through all my study that it's something that can be learned, and it's something that can be taught. And it's been my goal to try to make a story that's catchy. So, we put out the first 3 issues and put it out there into the wild. Carl sent it to a bunch of women. I'm not sure, this is kind of like a guy story, but so they were reading it, and
it's got it's a father-daughter here. Anyone can relate to these 2 characters.
I think that's the key, is that if you do your job right, it doesn't matter who your intended audience is. Anyone should pick it up, and it should be kind of unputdownable. And I think the reviews that they came back with kind of reflected that it has a momentum, like page 1 leads you to page 2, and you kind of tear through the whole thing. And if this is as big as a phone book, they would read the whole thing, hopefully in one sitting. So it's that has that kind of quality, and that just means the world to me, because something worked. I mean, I've been an artist for 30 years, but a writer for much less. So I really had to take a real deep dive into the writing aspect, and And so this is the result of it. So I hope people get in on the ground floor of it and check it out. And I guess from a collector standpoint, you look at it, you read it, and you say, does this have potential to grow and into other platforms, other medium, maybe TV and movie, or do you think it's just going to be like a comic that you put on in your long box? If you think it's something that feels cinematic or feels like has potential, then get yourself a physical copy, at a first printing, because it will go up in value as sure as Salvation Run did. So that's my
Exactly.
place.
Well, speaking of giving people a copy, I do have one of our New York Comic-Con exclusives right here that I think we should do a giveaway to everyone hanging out in the chat right now. You guys will have this one. If you guys don't know, this is actually an homage to one of your Wolverine covers. If you guys are familiar with the Wolverine Run Volume 2, and this was a New York Comic-Con Ashcan exclusive that kind of came out with the VV booth. But let's do a little bit of a giveaway right here. Maybe you can tell us about, a little bit about that cover that you did, the Wolverine one in the meantime.
You work long enough in this business, like I said, 30 years. I keep saying over again because I'm so old now. But if you work long enough, you get to homage yourself because you have so much stuff out there.
Yeah. Wait, before you, sorry. So if you guys want to be eligible for the giveaway, sorry, Sean, to interrupt, put Evermind in the chat. You just got to type the word Evermind. There you go. I will do the example like that. Enter Evermind, and then we're going to use the StreamYard tool to pick a winner right here. But sorry, carry on, Sean. What was the deal with?
If you type Nevermind in there, then you have to give us a book.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Exactly.
That cover that I did for Wolverine, I remember doing it, and there was something different about it. I think the editor heavily edited and just kept on asking me to make some revisions, and I was like, wow, this is really tough. But it led to a great cover, and it's been on at least 2 lists out there of the greatest comic book covers ever, which is a tremendous honor because I didn't think I was eligible for that. But I think 1 or 2 sites showed that one cover. So when it came time to do this, it was Carl Choi's idea to say, like, why don't you homage your Wolverine cover? And I was thinking, like, I could, but doesn't that make me seem like an arrogant prick? And probably, but I did it anyways.
Well, if it's Carl's idea, then it's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's the difference. It's like you because you didn't say that you wanted to do it, that makes it okay. It's not pretentious that way.
I was forced to do this, so yeah. And usually when you do an homage, you write like Sean Chen after. Like I did one that's an homage to the Brian Boland Wonder Woman cover, so it says Sean Chen after Boland. But this one,
this one right here.
Yeah, if I didn't write after Boland, I think people will come at me with fire and pitchforks. But this one, since it's homaging myself, it'd be kind of weird to be like a Chen after Chen.
Actually, that would be kind of a flex to actually do that. But either way, I have this is going to be the cover of issue 4 if you guys back the Kickstarter. But we did have the ash cans that preview issues 1 and 2, I believe, are pieces of the story in this. And this is the one that I'm going to be giving you guys in the chat. Everybody has put in Evermind. Let's hop over to the tool and kind of do this giveaway here. So I think if I do this correctly, I just type in Evermind like this, Evermind. And then we're going to start collecting comments. Should be accurate. Yes, 23 collected. Perfect. I didn't screw this up. And let's see who the lucky winner is for this particular NYCC exclusive. This is my personal copy, by the way. So I'm giving you guys not just an amazing book, but the ones that touched my hand. ABZ Comics, congratulations to you, sir. You are the winner of this New York Comic Con Ashcan. Get in touch with me. Either send me an email or DM me on Instagram, and I will get your mailing address, and I will send you this book. And then later on in the show, we'll give another one, guys. Okay, if you didn't win that one, we'll give another one. I got another one here that's it's also Sean's book, but it's a different cover. But congratulations to you, ABZ. Hit me up later on, and I will get you that book. And if you guys want to, back the Kickstarter, of course, hop on over to link in the description, the Evermind series, complete collection 1 through 6. Currently, 15 days left to go, 279 backers. get a chance to get some awesome books, some amazing story written by Sean and Daniel Wu, drawn entirely by Sean. I don't know if we're ever going to allow him to leave his house ever again until he's finished with issue number 6, but he will be working on it. And you guys can check out all the different tiers right here. There's some foils. There's some complete collections that have all the covers from the previous campaign. And then I also think that down here you have some commissions for sale that you guys can get if you guys are interested in that art. And like we already said at the beginning of the show, the last Kickstarter we did actually had the Salvation One art inside of it. And can you imagine that the backers who got that, I think they kind of like won a little bit of a lotto ticket, for having been able to pick up some of that artwork. Because I have to imagine that the Salvation artwork
it's like
would
a blind bag,
perform
right?
better. Yeah, it's a total blind bag. So who knows? Maybe you can get a commission. Maybe you can get Sean to draw the cover of Salvation One once again. That would be kind of interesting. If you all the commissions you've ever gotten, how many commissions do you think percentage-wise have been for your Salvation work?
Oh, 0. I mean, I've drawn. What was that? The guy with is it Mr. Freeze or Captain Cool? I'm not even sure which universe is which, but I've drawn him a few times. So I think that was from Salvation Run.
Okay, all right. Well, you guys could back the Kickstarter, get a commission, and be among the first to get Sean redoing Salvation ever since this book got hot. But let's kind of carry on with the list right here. I mean, it's not just Salvation Run that's got hot this week. It was also some other stuff related to, Peacemaker. And I'm curious, Sean, I'll quickly go through some of these books. And I don't know if you have opinions on them or have ever worked on them, but check this one out. Action Comics 598. First team appearance of Checkmate, who is Grace Guinness, Harvey Bullock, Harry Stein, and Knight 2. And then you have Checkmate number 1 from 1988, Checkmate number 23 that has Peacemaker on the cover. And then you got this other Batman book that's not related to Peacemaker. But are you familiar with Checkmate or even just Peacemaker or the character Vigilante, or any thoughts on like this Peacemaker show and John Cena's portrayal of this?
Well, I mean, I think everyone loves John Cena. I mean, he was, I guess would be considered a C-list character, but I think that's the cool thing about from comics to movies or television. I guess any of those characters, you can get a good writer to build a great story around and bring them to the forefront. I mean, when I did Iron Man for a long time, and I think he was a C-list character, and just by dumb luck, I gotta say, I kind of Forrest Gump my way through this business, and just the Exo-Man War at Valiant led to Iron Man at Marvel, and then, which is fine, it's a C-list character, but then they've made him like the head of the Avengers in the movies. And I couldn't see any of that coming. And sometimes you just get very lucky. And this whole Salvation Run thing is also just, it's just dumb luck a lot of times. So I've been very fortunate in this business.
Yeah, it's interesting because like sometimes it's not necessarily the idea. A lot of times it's just the execution. The Peacemaker character is proof of that. It's just having an interesting take or a different perspective on it, and kind of being right place, right time, and then all of a sudden it becomes the phenomenon that it wasn't a day ago. And it kind of almost feels like that was Salvation Run. Like maybe the work was there, but it just needs a little bit of a spotlight or just sort of a little bit of a gun twist with whatever he decides to do with it. And then who knows, maybe everyone's going to be coming back to this run that you guys worked on and wanting to read it. And I don't know, maybe there's going to be a new launch for Salvation Run, and DC is going to be calling your phone and saying, hey, Sean, why don't you dust off the Salvation penciling and reboot the series?
Oh yeah, I'm wrapping up Evermind probably within like a few weeks. So I'm wide open. My phone, I'm going to stand by. We're going to resurrect Salvation Run with, I don't know who's the writer, but yeah, like I'd be up for it.
Oh, well, there you hear it, guys. DC, Jim Lee, if you're watching the show, if you're lurking in the chat, Sean is ready to hop on to a Salvation Run relaunch. One other thing I thought was really cool and really interesting with the Peacemaker show, which I really love the show. I think it's one of the my favorite James Gunn's things that he's made. I tend to really like his work. I like Peacemaker and his style on it more than I liked his version of Superman. But one thing I thought that was so cool, and I think that this kind of like flew over a lot of the radar within the collecting space. But in the Peacemaker season finale, he had this little Easter egg of this Starling Terror of Tales issue number 10, which I think is pretty cool to see that, or issue 11, excuse me. If you guys know, this is a classic sort of PCH cover that everybody likes to collect if you're a Golden Age fan. LB Cole, this like kind of spider character with the skull on it. And I don't know. I think that this is James Gunn, just his sort of constant nod and constant wink to comic book collectors, which I think is what is making DC Spec and DC back issues be more exciting and making people want to buy them more than that of the Marvel back issue thing. I think Marvel already had its moment with everybody wanting to pick up like all the old books and everything, and now everybody's kind of looking to DC, and I think James Gunn is very well aware of it. And so I don't know if you have any thoughts on the back issue behavior in this Easter egg.
There's different industries and their relationship with their fans. I think it kind of shows that when it comes to adapting these things into movies, you really need one of us, like an insider, to do it, and not just hire someone who looks down on this stuff. But with different industries like wrestling or Star Trek or comics, some industries love their fans, and some wish their fans were someone else. So I'm not
That's
sure.
very true.
But this whole thing with James Gunn, he really is one of us, and he's made it to the big time, and he's kind of like bringing this stuff out, and I think we're all loving it. You know, the guy read and liked Salvation Run, so that means a lot to me. I wouldn't say the same thing about like maybe TK Waititi or whoever did the Thor, Love and Thunder, and stuff like that. I don't know how much of a Marvel fan they were, but it's just great to see that someone from the inside is doing this.
Yeah. It's really cool to see it. It's cool for them to bring attention to like the comic books themselves, even when it's just a totally obscure reference to pre-code horror book like this, and to actually put it in the television show. And we're in that season though. Pre-code horror books are going to start to get hot as Halloween is around the corner. But let me kind of jump forward. A little bit of interesting news just to kind of round out the trending conversation. This was the trending 20 list. Salvation Run was at the top. We had Absolute Batman, number 13. I don't know, Sean, have you been reading Absolute Batman? Are you paying attention to any of this? But this stuff is massive right now.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. If you're in this industry, you're doing your due diligence to read all the stuff that everyone's reading. Absolute Batman is on the top of that list. It's required reading. And DC's done something that I think Marvel really needs to do. It's to kind of bring something out of left field like this and have it be a hit by tapping into a creator that is just a hit maker. And it's so unusual and so different. It's very off-putting and very odd and very uncomfortable in many ways, but it's like a hit. And there's going to be I'm sure like a movie or some kind of streaming thing that uses this Batman. And I think it's all great. So yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's one of the few, I think, kind of current comic storylines, at least amongst the big two, that genuinely has a reader base, which you would think that like comics would in general have reader bases, but like that's so hard to get actually these days. But I'll just kind of round out the hot list. We did also have the Wonder Man trailer that came out, and so there was a little bit of movement for some of these vision and things like that. But kind of like what I was already saying, I feel like that ship has already passed with the Marvel spec, and I think most people are more interested in the DC stuff like Salvation. But I don't know, did you end up watching the Wonder Man trailer that came out in New York, Sean? You catch this one?
Oh, I didn't. I got to see it right after. I didn't know it came out. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't play the sound, but this, if you guys don't know, the Wonder Man TV show is happening, and it seems to be like they're kind of doing a very meta commentary take on it. Calling out film critics and film fans, which is obviously very connected to what's going on with the Marvel cinematic universe and people's feeling on the Marvel series and TV shows and movies these days. But I don't know, it was kind of fun, and I just thought it was an interesting thing because Peacemaker, a lot of comic book selling related to Peacemaker. Wonder Man trailer comes out, and not nearly as many. And so,
Wow.
just something I wanted to point out. But yeah. So Sean, we were at you were at Baltimore Comic-Con this past weekend. I just pulled up a couple of pictures. You didn't post anything, but anything of note at Baltimore? How was the show overall?
Oh, the one thing I noticed when I was talking to my artist peers at the end of the show, they had a great show. Everyone was really happy with how much money they made, which is weird because it happened so closely after New York Comic Con. I thought it was going to be a very different story. I think that's probably a testament to how Baltimore has a very different vibe than New York. The two shows are different as night and day. New York Comic Con is very corporate, and of course Baltimore is really like a mom and pop type thing, and hardcore collectors and his comics focused, particularly comics art. So everyone was doing really well. So I guess people didn't blow all their money in New York because 4 hours away and 1 week later is Baltimore, and everyone was really happy. It was a great show. Carl was there. He didn't bring his portfolio of art. Like a lot of them try to flex by bringing their best pieces to the show, which I don't know. I would keep that stuff in the vault. But they bring their original art, and they have meetups, and they kind of show each other what they acquired, and so you can ooh and all over the stuff. Carl didn't bring his because we're there to promote Evermind. So he took my art portfolio to these meetups. And I told him I'm not selling anything this year, so they can look at it. But even then, the demand was so strong that I just had to sell one because the guy wanted it so badly. So yeah, it was great. It was a surprise. I was not expecting to be as a great of a turnout and a great show as it was. So it just shows how comics are very local. Even though it's only 4 hours away, and it's also very niche. It's a different crowd. So there was a lot of hardcore collectors there, and a lot of hardcore fans. So it's a great one. So if you haven't been before, you should go.
I definitely want to go. I'm going to actually, for those in the chat and people watching on the VOD, I'm going to be having a couple dealers on to do a discussion about the secondary market sales and everything that happened at Baltimore, and they were also at New York Comic Con as well. So I'm going to get a little bit of a market report. But just for me, and kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying, it definitely feels like Baltimore is the place you go to actually spend the money when you want to like buy stuff. That's where like a lot of the collectors are, and New York is the one you kind of go for a little bit of the fanfare, a little bit of the show, and you're already paying for your Manhattan hotel room already. So I think people have a little more budget for Baltimore than they do for New York. But yeah, but interesting shows. I'll do a market report. But Sean, I wanted to say, thanks so much for hopping on the channel here tonight. I mean, everybody in the chat, I hope you guys can definitely go check out Evermind, the Kickstarter. The link is in the description. Also, Sean's Instagram is in the description as well if you guys want to kind of keep up to date with what he's got going on. Before we totally wrap up the show, I do want to do one more giveaway for our Evermind comic. And I'm actually going to use our live stream time right now to do a giveaway for myself that I had on my channel, because I did my New York Comic Con recap, and I mentioned how I was in the Walmart booth, and that I got to, speaking of incredible artists, got to sit with Stan Sakai, who created Usagi Yojimbo, and I did an interview with him. And so I did a little contest to give away these pieces that he actually drew. So I'm going to be picking the winners right here. But we're going to table that for a second. I want to give away the Evermind comic book first. So let's kind of get back into this. We're going to give away Sean's book, and then I'm going to use Sean to help give away my original art from Stan Sakai. But again, guys, this is the Evermind comic book right here. Sean, who's the one that did this cover?
That is the great Riccardo Federici. He does wonderful, fully rendered painted covers. He's like super hot, and I guess he was one of the VV guy's favorite artists. So Carl had to deliver and get a cover from him. It's beautiful, and he's a great guy. I think the original is probably also for sale, so you can contact Fletch Forward or Fletch a Sketch to see about that. But yeah, great variant. I'm very proud of that one.
Well, for this one, guys, let's put Salvation in the chat. Salvation in reference to the Salvation Run Put Salvation in the chat if you want to be eligible to win this Federici. Did I say that correctly?
Federici, I think.
Federici, excuse me. I'm sorry. Federici, Evermind, NYCC exclusive. Give yourself a chance to get this one. And let's see how many people are going to be putting their names in. All right, it's growing, it's growing. Let's give people some time. Again, at New York Comic Con, I was able to kind of spend some time with Stan Sakai and Sweeney Boo here. So she actually did another sketch for me as well, this Harley Quinn one. So I have a couple sketches of these people that I'll be giving away after we do our Evermind one. But check that out, Sean. What do you think of these? Have you ever been a Usagi Yojimbo fan?
Oh yeah, that guy is Stan Sakai is amazing. Like he draws so fast and it's so expressive, and that comic is like a juggernaut. It's been around for decades, so it's a great
So he did.
Are you going to talk about yourself as Batman at all, or is that something?
We're not gonna talk about me as Batman anymore. Okay, I don't want to make that a thing. Can I just say, like, so cosplaying, I've never done it before, but dressing as Clark Kent, no big deal. That's totally fine. But dressing as Batman and wearing the thing, I was like drenched in sweat. Like, I don't know how people do it. The people that wear the full-on outfits. But it was a lot of tough work, but it was fun. I still had a good time doing it. And then the last one, this one is done by Sweeney Boo. I don't know if you know who she is, but she did a Wednesday Addams.
Her Instagram following is massive, and she's like so popular. I met her, and she's like extremely nice. So it's a great person.
She was very sweet, and I got to be on the Walmart Live and talk to them, and they did some live drawings. So I got to see their process, which is really cool. So I'm going to give those after this. But all right, let's check back in with our entries here for Salvation. We got 22 entries. I'm going to hit the draw button, and let's see who wins this one.
Your name was in there.
And it is, it was Austin B. Austin B, congratulations, sir. You are the winner of this book. Make sure to either send me an email or DM me on Instagram, and I will get your mailing address and send this to you. And now let's kind of just quickly, for transparency purposes, let us get the winners of my New York Comic Con, and I'm going to use Sean to co-pilot with me as I do this. I already took the video. I'm using this YouTube random comment picker right here. And so I did my New York Comic Con recap. Actually, give me a second. Let me refresh that. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's paste this in. I don't know why it's not doing it. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. All right, it's not working. All right, well, I'm going to have to do it online, guys. I'm going to do it after the fact. There you go. This is what happens sometimes when you do live streams. You don't get to actually do your giveaways. But I did do the giveaway for this. Congratulations to the two winners of the Evermind books. If you guys are the winners, then be sure to email me after the show. And Sean, thanks again for joining us. Where can people find you if they want to keep up with what you got going on, whether it's for Salvation Run or for Evermind?
It's only one place, really. Instagram is Sean Chen Art. It's uploading every day, so please check it out for updates and everything. And you can probably see me on a lot of interviews and a lot of store appearances because it's Hell Month for me.
All right. Well, Sean's Instagram is down below. Guys, check out the Kickstarter. You won't regret it. It's an incredible series. It is the magnum opus of this guy right here. If you like Salvation Run and you're already kind of like interested in picking up that book, you might as well pick up Sean's latest creation. So definitely go check it out. But Sean, thanks again for joining us here today. Shout out to Dan, who jumped on earlier. I appreciate him jumping on as well. But everyone hanging out in the chat, we appreciate you, and we'll catch you all on the next stream. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me.